Auburn's Junior Day lived up to the hype and sets the stage for an incredible 2026 run.
You are Locked On Auburn, your daily podcast on the Auburn Tigers. Part of the Locked On Podcast Network, your team every day.
Yes, welcome on into Locked On Auburn, your daily Auburn Tigers podcast. I'm your host, Zac Blackerby, and thank you so much for making Locked On Auburn your first listen every single day. Joining me as he does every single Monday, the Lindsay Crosby. You can find his Auburn content over at thebarnauburn.com. More on that, including a special announcement later in the show. We'll talk about how incredible Saturday was with an electric finish, with an electric environment, and how the culture is certainly forming and strengthening throughout Auburn, not just with football. But Auburn's Junior Day seemed like it was a success. And I don't think in a weekend like this, where it's so far away from signing day, so far away from December, you can't set success or failure rate on like how many guys committed. Auburn didn't get a commit this weekend, and it didn't really seem like they were expecting to. But I do think they laid the groundwork, Lindsay, for a few guys moving forward. And one of those guys is Vodney Cleveland, the defensive tackle from the Birmingham area who plays at Parker High School. He's been a guy that I have been very, very high on for a hot minute. And it seems like Auburn has really solidified their stance with Vodney Cleveland.
Yeah, I mean, it's you bring in an in-state pass rusher. Like, I honestly feel like you can never have enough pass rushers. I know he's listed defensive tackle a lot of places, but still, I mean, this is an in-state player. Unlike some schools, I still think that matters to recruit in-state players.
Yeah,
and a special position, like we've talked so much, I feel like, about the depth on the defensive line and what that's going to look like going forward. So being able to bring in Vodney Cleveland on a visit, we already know, like, he committed to Alabama, he decommitted from Alabama, and to be in that group, to get him this early and to get him in an environment like you got him for the weekend, I think is a big deal. And kind of just, to me, this kind of shows the growing divide between University of Alabama and Auburn right now.
Yeah, I mean, I hope you're right. When Vodney Cleveland committed to Alabama, I didn't buy it. I hated it because I like Vodney Cleveland as a player so much. And I like that you labeled him as a pass rusher because he is a defensive lineman. He's going to play interior defensive line. But the thing that excites me so much about Vodney Cleveland as a prospect is a guy at his age with his size and his frame shouldn't be moving like he does. And if you don't already, go follow Coach L on social medias. He trains a lot of the defensive linemen, not just at Auburn, but just in the Birmingham area. A lot of those guys go on to be pros, and he'll post clips. And like he posted one of Vodney a while ago, and it's just I assume he's probably 16, and it's like he should not be that big and be able to move that way. At that age, it's insane. He is so far ahead of the game developmentally, as far as what I can tell, than most players that are like that we're talking about here. So Auburn doing everything they can to get Vodney Cleveland makes total sense. And once again, it sounds like they took a step in the right direction with him on Junior Day.
Yeah, it's. I think you have a couple things in your favor here, right? Obviously, one, he decommitted from Alabama. They could always get him back, but something made him not want to be there. At least not publicly admit to being there. Mm-hmm. But Auburn's coaching staff along the defensive line, BKW, guys like that, like very well regarded. And like you have to feel like the playing time is going to be there. You do have a track record of taking some of those exceptional, I'm going to say those pass rushing guys from the interior and getting them to the league. I'm not saying he's the same kind of guy as a Derek Brown or a Marlon Davidson, but Auburn's been able to show that they can find opportunities for those interior guys to still make it in the pass game, rush the passer, and all of that. And the schemes that Auburn runs, I feel like are more conducive to getting the stats and getting drafted than something like what an Alabama would run, right? You do have more opportunities like that at Auburn. So I love the fact that he was in the visit. I love that he had good things to say about it. And I'm very hopeful that this is one, as you have almost a year now, you have 11 months to hopefully lock this down. But this was a step in the right direction. And what an impression, again, on that Saturday with that basketball game in town and everything else. What a great impression you could leave on him.
Yeah, and Vontrell King-Williams clearly likes this guy a lot, Auburn's defensive line coach, and it seems like he is a rising star in the profession, and he has given us no reasons not to trust him leading the charge, both when it comes to recruiting and also talent evaluation. So hats off to Vontrell King-Williams in leading that charge. Another guy that really stood out to me, one of my favorite players that was here this past weekend, Zion Elee, the 5-star commit. He plays edge. He's committed to Maryland currently, Baltimore area kid. And he posted a lot. It sounded like he was very excited to be here. And this is a guy that I think Auburn has a real shot for. And when you talk about stacking classes at certain positions, I mean, you hinted at it when we talked about defensive tackle with Vodney Cleveland. You can't get too many pass rushers, Lindsay, and this is a guy who I think is absolutely elite. And it sounds like Coach Rock absolutely loves this guy.
Yeah. What I'd like is when you look at some of the comments that he gave, and yes, it's, what a high schooler's telling you and things like that. But I've seen him talk about having other teammates, having other kids that he knows from Maryland here. So you love the fact that there's connections. He can feel a little more comfortable. There is, as much as we don't want to think about it, there is a little bit of that. Do I want to go halfway across the country to play in college? Right. So It always helps. We talk so much about in-state guys, but it always helps to have those connections like he has. And he says that, some of the comments that came out of that visit was he really, he likes the program. He likes the coaching staff. Again, he knows some players already here. And then obviously, just the way that the visit went, the stuff Auburn had for them to do all went really well. So you have to hope that, again, you can kind of stack at some of these positions where you rotate a lot more or can rotate a lot more and can never have enough depth. It's not like stacking at quarterback doesn't necessarily help you when you play one in a game for the most part. But stacking at edge, stacking at defensive tackle is virtually nothing but a good thing unless it's so deep where the guys don't feel like they can play. Yeah.
And I don't think, 5 stars aren't really wired that way. They think they could beat out anybody, and he's got a shot. He's very, very good. So we'll see. We'll see exactly what Auburn's footing is for Elee moving forward. Yeah. There's 2 other names I want to spend some time on. And I think one is good and one is bad. And that's next, right here on Locked On Auburn. Today's show is brought to you by our friends at Intuit TurboTax. Taxes was waiting and wondering if you were ever going to get any money back, and then waiting, worrying, wondering some more. Now Taxes is matching with a TurboTax expert who can do your taxes as soon as today. An expert who gives your taxes their undivided attention as they work on your return while you get real-time updates on their progress so you can focus on your day. An expert who will find you every deduction possible and file every form for every investment, everything with 100% accuracy. Also, you can get the most money back, guaranteed. No waiting, no wondering, no worries. Now this is Taxes. Get an expert now at TurboTax.com. Lindsay Crosby, our guest. You can find his stuff over at thebarnauburn.com. I post at thebarnauburn.com as well. Go sign up there today. I want to mention the positive side of this. Denairius Gray, the Auburn wide receiver commit. I believe he was the first commit in the 2026 class. South Florida kid. Auburn got him early to the point where when he popped, I don't think a ton of people knew who he was. And then he gets to Auburn this weekend. But since then, he's gotten a commit or an offer, Lindsay, from every major program out there, including a lot of them that played for national championships or the college football playoff. He is wanted nationally. And it seems like Ohio State is starting to push for him a ton too. But one thing that I loved is somebody, I think it was just an Auburn fan, asked the question, like, is Daenerys Gray still committed to Auburn? And he tweeted back to the fan a picture of him and Hugh Freeze in what I think it looks like is the Auburn indoor practice facility from this weekend. So I think it was kind of a cool thing of like, yes, I'm still committed to Auburn despite all of this national praise that I've started getting. I think that matters, and I think that's a testament to this coaching staff saying, hey, we're going to do the scouting and we're going to get folks in the boat early, but we're also going to do everything we can to keep guys in the boat.
Yeah, I think you can look at those early commits one of two ways. Glass half full, glass half empty. Glass half full is obviously your evaluations are on point, right? You're nailing these kids before the recruiting services do, before a lot of other schools do. The glass half empty perspective can be they initially fall in love with you because you're the big program that gives them attention, and then everybody else comes knocking. And I do like the fact that it would be very easy for him to just ignore that tweet, right? And just not even respond to it and leave people kind of in the lurch. But him to go and post a picture of him and Hugh being here and all of that makes you feel like he's more locked in than maybe than your anxiety would tell you, right?
Yeah, and I would think even not saying anything, like if you're in a spot where like mentally you wanted leverage, you just don't do any of that.
Right.
But instead, you give up leverage, you give up control. In today's age of NIL and negotiations, I mean, recruiting's different than it used to be. We all know this. Let's don't play dumb here. I mean, he gives up some of his footing here when you publicly act like that and say, hey, no, I'm still here, and you're posting pictures and you're glad to be here and all of that. And I think that stuff matters. And I mean, we talk about this before, like with recruiting, like trust the visits, but also like there's always a chance that people are playing games on social media. There's always a chance. I mean, these are kids. I would have done the same thing at their age in this situation, but this didn't feel like that, right? Like if you're playing games when it comes to like negotiating from Daenerys Gray's point of view, it would make sense not to say anything. And so him, I think, being so outwardly pro Auburn on this big weekend, we'll talk about how electric the weekend was in a second, to me, I think means a ton. And so Daenerys Gray and then Devin Carter, I mean, this wide receiver class, it's going to be one of the best in college football when it's all said and done, because they got Denairius Gray as early as they did.
Yeah, it's again, your evaluations have been great. And this is another position where you can stack up guys, right? I mean, you have Devin Carter, I think, is in this class already. He's a 4-star.
Right.
It kind of feels like Denairius Gray is on his way to getting a fourth star.
Is he not a 4-star?
I'm looking on 247 right now, and
he's
he is
not
listed
on
as
247?
a 3. He's not on 247. I haven't pulled the composite, but he is listed as a 3-star right now. The number, I think it's the 74th best wide receiver in the country, which those South Florida guys, I feel like, every year you end up thinking those South Florida guys are fantastic, even if they're not always rated that way. So
yeah, it looks like he's a 4-star on 3.
We've always said on 3 is the best one, right? The best one when they give you what you want to hear.
That's right.
So
that's right. Rivals has him as a 4-star too. It looks like.
Go. Okay, so 247 is the wrong one. Got that. That's fine. The one that I'm looking
Gray,
at.
absolutely.
Yes.
Yeah, absolutely. No, I think it means a lot. I mean, when you talk about Daenerys, because he may have been a 3-star when he committed, right? Which is the whole point of what we're talking about.
Which was January 2024. It's been a year. He's been.
That's crazy. Yeah, I mean, it was early on. Like it was hard to get to that class page when he got committed. You know what I mean? It's oh, okay,
it wasn't even listed yet. Yeah.
Yeah, right. And so I think Auburn being all over him is awesome. And coach that we probably don't talk about enough, Marcus Davis, like that's great. Good stuff there. The other guy I want to mention that visited this weekend, and I don't think this is a good thing, but it's realistic. Emmanuel Iheanacho, the 5-star offensive tackle that visited. I think it was an interview with Christian Clemente, or it was Christian Clemente's story. I mean, he flat out told him he was like 4th or 5th in the pecking order is where Auburn was in his schools. And it's like, oh, all right. Like that's not great. That's not outstanding. And so does that mean Auburn's out of it? No. With this coaching staff, no kid is out of it if they deem them a priority target and the views of the prospect and the target align with, what Auburn wants. but he doesn't seem likely at this point based off of that feedback.
Yeah, I mean, in some of the comments I saw somewhere else, he said like Auburn was due for another visit from him. He hadn't been here since like last spring. But I will say, and I correct me if I'm wrong in the comments on YouTube and everything, we haven't been getting a lot of visits from 5-star offensive linemen out of high school. So the fact that we're even getting the visit and we're in the list of the top 5 or whatever, I feel like is a step forward, because the offensive line, so much more than any other position, that recruiting's based on long-term relationships. And so the fact that we're at the point now where we're in that top 5 guys, top 5 schools for a guy is a step forward from where we've been. Because ideally you want to build your high school recruiting for the offensive line to the point where you don't have to portal guys every year. We've been great at portaling guys on the line, but
and they've gotten better. Like they got a lot of 4 stars on the line at several different spots this past year and even the year prior to that. But there's also a weird argument similar to the quarterback position where like 5-star offensive tackles are so expensive. And once again, like there's not a salary cap, but there is a limit of how much money certain collectives have. And if you don't feel like he can play right away, he being a general, highly rated tackle, not even necessarily, Ian Nacho.
Just any player. Yeah.
But like, is that worth it? In today's age of college football, when you talk about like finances of it all, like, is it worth it? I don't know. I think Ian Nacho, especially with his ratings and all that, like he's got a shot to play as a freshman virtually anywhere. So like, I'm not saying that applies to him, but it is an interesting conversation of, okay, if this guy like we don't project him starting day one, is this worth it? I don't know. So like, is that going to impact how offensive tackles are recruited because they cost so much now?
Yeah.
Maybe. I saw that somewhere and I'm like, I can't really come up with an argument against that right now.
Yeah. Like there's a financial term here, but like that's the cost benefit analysis here, right? Can you afford to have that money locked up in a dude who's not on the field? Because like you said, no salary cap, but you don't have unlimited money as much as we wish we did. If you're I know you're watching, Tim Apple. If you want to help with this, that'd be great.
That would be great. That'd be awesome.
But yeah, like top 1 or 2 offensive tackles in that entire class. Could he be a day one guy? He has a better chance than some other people, but I do think some of the comments that he gave were really interesting. He talked about strength and conditioning in general. He talked about nutrition. He talked about how our strength and conditioning coach was the same guy for Laramie Tunsil at Ole Miss, and how like Emmanuel really thinks that he has the skills. Not he, I mean the strength and conditioning folks have the skills to get him physically ready for the SEC right away. Yeah. So you do feel good about that because you can point to that previous experience. But again, to your point, you have to hope he can start on day one because it's a lot of money to lock up in a guy if he can't. And so,
yeah, right.
High school recruiting's tougher than it used to be.
And I think it's worth it. Like, I think he's worth whatever price tag he is. I think with his recruitment, it's more than money, which is also tricky, which is why he probably said those things. Like, his goal is to get to the league.
Yeah.
But I think most places can get players like this to the league. Like the starting point of where he needs to be is so much farther along than like the average player, where I'm like, yeah, I understand that development's important, but
I'd imagine a lot of 5-star offensive linemen, especially tackles, end up getting drafted, even if they're not that good in college. I imagine they get taken.
Former 5-stars at like any position.
Yeah.
Have such a higher. I mean, look at who's the guy that we got?
Byron Cowart.
Byron Cowart's a great example. And then like a similar Justin Rogers, the former 5-star from Kentucky. And then like he was okay for us. He was fine.
Yeah.
But it
wasn't great.
Yeah, no business being drafted where he was, but former 5-star, like you always got a shot. But I don't know, just interesting NIL discussion. But yeah, Ian Nacho. Daenerys Gray. Yeah, great news there. Great news there. An electric weekend. And I think this is like really starting to kind of solidify some of this culture that we've talked about. And More on that in just a second, right here on Locked On Auburn. Today's show brought to you by our friends at FanDuel. Lindsay, can you imagine wagering anywhere other than with our friends at FanDuel Sportsbook?
I absolutely could not. I would not dream of it because they've got everything that you could possibly need right there on FanDuel.
Yeah, a few Auburn-related lines. Auburn, a 1.5-point favorite on the road against Baylor. If that intrigues you, if you feel like that line is going to move one way or the other.
I was thinking basketball. I'm like, how is Auburn only favored by 1.5 in Waco? Okay, football.
Yep. Also football, plus 6,000. Plus 6,000 to win the Natty.
So you're saying there's a chance?
Sure. Surprisingly high odds compared to other schools around them. So take that for what it's worth. And then to win the SEC championship, plus 3,500. If you're into that sort of thing. So if you believe in the Auburn Tigers, head over to FanDuel. They've got all sorts of things going on there. So download the app or head to FanDuel.com to get started. Just $5, and if you win, you can score $200 in bonus bets. All that is over at FanDuel.com. Final few moments. Thank you so much for making Locked On Auburn your first listen every single day. Lindsay, one of the big aspects of Junior Day was building it around the Auburn-Tennessee game.
Mm-hmm.
And the atmosphere in Neville was unbelievable. The game was brutal to watch, but thank goodness Miles Kelly's like, we're not losing today. Janai Broom's like, we're not losing today. We're going to find a way to keep winning. And that's exactly what they did. But I don't know how you could be in that environment and around this fan base and just like seeing Auburn winning at a high level and not want to be a part of this. Because it's like, Hugh Freeze is saying like, look, we love basketball, but we love football. We will always be a football school. We will always care more about football. And I think that's going to be part of it. And I also love that the recruits were in the stands when during a timeout, they welcomed the new Auburn football players that are enrolled, the early enrollees and the transfer portal guys. Like, I love that they did that in front of them. That was not on accident, I promise you.
Yeah, like that was definitely coordinated. And you're like, okay, that makes sense. Let's play this up. Let's take every possible advantage we have in this situation, which I think is big because I remember Junior Days just a few years ago where you had like two dudes here for the Kentucky game. And it's like, come on, that's not how you do a Junior Day. This is how you do a Junior Day.
Yeah. I mean, the amount of top 100 players on campus was incredible. But let's talk about the game just for a second. I mean, what Janai Broom did Saturday night when it clearly wasn't 100%. And just, I mean,
and he played like 34, 35 minutes.
Total warrior. I mean, just an absolute dog. Like, I know a lot of people love Cooper Flagg, and I don't think Cooper Flagg is a bad player by any stretch of the imagination. He's great. And he's probably going to be the better NBA player. But goodness gracious, I just don't know. I feel like I say this every week, but this team keeps finding ways to blow me away. They keep finding new ways to win. They keep finding new ways to kind of put an exclamation mark on whatever it is they did on that given night. And like, so many guys shot awful. And you still found a way to beat the number 6 team in the country. It's incredible. And hats off to Janai Broom for what he did.
I loved how Bruce worded it after the game about how he had a triple-double because he had, he had 13 rebounds, he had 16 points, and he missed 12 shots. It's like, and yet, I mean, like the final, like the dagger for Auburn came off of a Janai Broom miss where he got his own rebound and found a 3-point shooter in the corner. And to go out there, like the big thing to me, like he wasn't 100%, you could tell, but also to have not played a game in a couple weeks and then to spend 33 minutes on the floor, I think is massive. Because I mean, if you've ever played pickup basketball, like you know how tiring that is at the casual pickup level, never mind SEC, top 5 team in the country level. That was amazing. And just the environment of the game, the atmosphere was electric. College game day being here, having the recruits here for college game day and all of that stuff. Great weekend. You kind of love how that worked out. The weather worked out. Obviously, you win the game. It wasn't a beautiful game, right? Bad shooting percentages all around and everything, but you win the game. I think you had like 31% shooting, 15% from three, but you won. You held on the number one rank.
You won. Yeah, and you're probably not going to have a worse offensive night this year than that. Probably not.
I mean, there's not a ton of other defenses better than them than Tennessee in the country.
No, and I sold them short a little bit. They were incredible. They were incredible. One thing is driving me crazy, the amount of folks on the Tennessee side, and we saw it coming, that are highlighting one specific call where their guy did get held.
Yeah.
Not arguing that.
Yeah.
But I just don't know how you can watch that game and think, yes, that game came down to like that hold that was not called is the only thing that wasn't called. Like, that's ridiculous. That is absolutely ridiculous. Lindsay, their coach spiked a cup of water where water got onto the floor and wasn't teed up. Like, that is wild to me.
My wife
like,
asked
Tennessee,
about that.
if you want to play that game, like, well, if he hadn't been held, it's like, well, okay, whoa, hold on. Right? Like, that was the only thing that wasn't called Saturday night.
Yeah. My wife asked about the water thing, and I'm like, I guess he wasn't called because he threw it away from the court. Technically, if you look at the direction it was going, and it just leaked back onto, like, I was like, I honestly don't know why he wasn't called for that, but it was the thing that I kind of liked about the end of that game. And I know it's a dumb comment to make because the officiating has been so bad in the SEC this year. It feels like,
yeah.
And the big thing is, like, the conference wanted the teams to invest in basketball, and they have. Everybody has, but the league hasn't invested in the officiating. Was towards the end of the game, they started letting them play a little bit more. And I think that was one of the situations where first half, that might have gotten called. Second half, it wasn't. It could have been called.
You just can't change how you call a game.
I know. And that's the thing. Like, I'm saying this because we won. I'm sure if we lost, I'd be complaining that you let that go and that would have been a penalty in the first half. It's that double standard. But I do like that this wasn't decided by a referee's call late that ended a possession. It was decided by who made their shots, who missed their shots.
Right. And both teams had plenty of opportunities to move away late. Both teams did. Mm-hmm. And neither one took advantage. And also, I think both teams played incredible defense too. But whatever. Auburn remains undefeated in SEC play.
The only team in the conference, I believe, that's undefeated in SEC play. Only one lost team in the country, I think. 18-1. We take it.
Lindsay, we've got something very cool coming later this week. Tell the folks about it.
All right. Over on The Barn, we are launching the Barn Baseball Show. It'll be me. It will be former Auburn Tigers legend Sonny DeShera.
Yes.
It will be voice of the Auburn Tigers, Brad Law. The three of us are doing a baseball show a couple times a week. We'll talk about the upcoming games, the series that just finished, player interviews. Sonny's in charge of the hitters. I'm in charge of the pitchers. It's going to be, we're going to have Butch on there. It'll be a great, during baseball season, us talking ball. Again, we've got guys who have done it in Sonny. We have somebody who's calling every game in Brad. We've got somebody who obsessively watches baseball in me. So it'll be hosted on the Barn's YouTube. It'll be in the Barn's existing podcast feeds. So go subscribe. First episode comes out this Friday.
Yeah. It's going to be awesome. I can't wait. Y'all are going to knock it out of the park, much like Sonny did very often when he was playing.
Yes. I'm hoping we can get his walk-up song as the music for the show. I'm trying to work that out. The rights on that.
Yeah, we'll see. I'm sure those copyright stuff is expensive, but we'll see. Yeah. Hey, please like the video, please subscribe, and we will see you next time. This has been Locked On Auburn.